Today we saw shorts getting squeezed in the market, and after the bell, Tesla has earnings. And let's talk about, has gold finally put the top in? Now, we come over and look at the fear and greed index. Right now, we're sitting at 24. We were teetering, trying to get over into fear territory today. However, I never saw the fear and greed index actually make it over into fear. Now, we come over and look at how the indices fared across the board. The Dow was up 1,016 points. The NASDAQ was up 429 points. S&P 500 up 129 points, with the Russell 2000 being up 4.78. Look at advancing issues versus declining. We had 84.4% of issues advancing on the day. And then when we come over and look at the sectors across the board, exact opposite of yesterday. Yesterday, every sector was in the red. Today, every single sector was in the green, and financials was the leader out here for the day. Now, if we look at the heat map real quick for the NASDAQ, we got to study this real closely. Do we see any red on the screen? In my first glance, I don't see any red. If you guys do see any red in this image, comment it in the comment section down below. Now, the dollar index has been getting beaten up for quite some time. Ever since this year started, the dollar has been on the decline. However, actually forms an inside candle, which means the low was higher than the low from the prior day. The high was lower than the high from the prior day. And we see the dollar index was actually up 60 cents. So if the dollar index was actually on the move up higher, what do we think happened to the precious metal gold? If you say, yikes, a nice, fat, juicy shooting star candle, you would be absolutely correct. And now the question is, are we going to go ahead and work our way back down to fill in the gap? And keep in mind, for that gap to be filled, we need to come all the way down to 3,177.5. Now, I do like where the candle location is. We've had one heck of a squeeze on the way up, but I do want to caution you guys a little bit real quick. The MACD indicator is still extremely strong. We show no signs of weakening at this moment, but if gold does indeed start to come lower, is that also going to be a good sign out here for stocks? Now, today we got a little bit of good news out here because the White House says it's close on Japan and India trade agreements. And as we start to see more and more talks like this is going to be favorable out here for the stock market. Then when I went to lunch today, like I do every day when I'm on stream, as soon as I go to lunch, boom, we get a big move on the way up. Today, as I went to lunch and I was short when this news came out, we saw the dollar index right around 12 starting to go up. We seen the S&P 500 shooting up, and it basically was all about U.S. Treasury Secretary Bissett sees de-escalation with China and the current situation as unsustainable. So that gave the market a little bit of hope. And right here, this is the move that basically transpired when that actually came out. We did ultimately come back down and undo that move. But nonetheless, I was short up through this area. So over lunch, I did suffer a bit of pain. Now, speaking of Bissett, is he the one that basically talked Trump into pausing tariffs for 90 days? This article goes on to say he worked with George Soros. And if you guys remember, if you know anything about George Soros, you know he had one of the biggest trades in history where they basically broke the Bank of England. And what this article goes on to say is the market is more powerful than the government. So is Trump finally starting to listen? And that's why he's softened his stance here just a bit. Now, after the bell, Tesla does have earnings coming out, and it says margins and Musk moonlighting, Q1 earnings, company update preview. Now, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you guys think Tesla is going to rocket up or shoot down after the earnings are announced? We can see right here, the Q1 deliveries was a huge drop off. And we know if you guys have been watching the media, there's been a lot of negative media out there ever since Elon was part of Doge and all these programs getting cut and such. Now, I'll make you guys aware of two amazing offers right now. My funded features, you can get the starter account for only $82. Link in the description box down below. Use promo code Mike. And Take Profit Trader, 30% off all your evaluation accounts. No activation fee. Use code Epitome, links in the description box down below. Now, before we come over and look at the SPY real quick, let's take a look at the volatility index. The VIX was down 9.61%. We look at this on the 5-minute chart. We were talking about this today on the live stream. We saw the VIX starting to firm up. One of the traders in the chat, Matt, said, hey, watch the VIX. If it can break the trend line, we're going to see a pullback in the market. And that's exactly what transpired. As the VIX started to shoot up, we've seen the market starting to roll back. Today, we did give away a 50K Take Profit Trader account. And if you guys don't want to miss the next time I go live, make sure you subscribe. You have the bell notifications turned on for all. Now, yesterday, the VIX basically gave us a heads up that today or tomorrow was likely going to be an update in the market. Now, something that's a little bit concerning, the VIX did not close down 10% on the day. Had it closed down 10% today, that would actually indicate that tomorrow or the following day was likely going to be a down day in the stock market. Now, after the bell, we look at Tesla. We see a lot of whipping back and forth, but I don't think the whole extent of earnings have been released just yet. So we'll have to keep an eye on Tesla and see if it does end up rocketing after hours. We come over and look at some of the Mag 7 stocks like Apple. I really like the pattern that's forming. You see right here, we pushed up. We have the case where we have a higher low, and now we're trying to push back up and out. Are we going to be able to break above this recent swing point over here? We come over and look at Nvidia. Nvidia today firming up a bit, up 2% on the session, but kind of closing with a doji candle. Then we look at Microsoft. Microsoft trying to work its way up, filling the gap over here. Microsoft looking constructive as well, possibly putting in a higher low. We even come over and look at Meta. Meta today on the move up as well, up 3.22%. Now we come over and look at the SPY, the SPY. We have that same characteristic where we have the potential for this higher low. However, this is going to be critical. We did fill the gap from yesterday, but now the question is, are we going to come back down, challenge this low? And if we do, watch out. We're probably going to go all the way back down towards the low. If this low right here can hold, then we have this potential for this A to B equals C to D pattern. That would go something like this. The A to B leg, the B to C leg would be the corrective leg, and that pattern completes at about 574.58. Now, if we were to be able to make it up here towards that area, we'd be able to take out all the gaps that we have for the month of April. Now, as we come over and look at the 4-hour chart real quick, you can see that gap today was filled. However, we still have the gap from last week, which has not been filled. Then on the 30-minute chart, we talked about this last night. I really like the way the MACD was firming up. And I said, watch out. If we get above value area high, we're likely going to go ahead and retest gap resistance and then come all the way up here for the gap to be filled. Now today, what do? We gapped up. So now the question is, are we going to work our way back down and fill the gap from today? Or are we going to keep on going up higher, trying to work our way all the way up to about 537.78? What I will say, for at least the meantime, this looks constructive. But notice, we had a little bit of a consolidation right here, a little 2-bar consolidation. We broke down, and realistically, we're just right back in that consolidation. We can also make the case that we have a little inverse head and shoulders pattern, left shoulder, head, right shoulder down here, which would also imply we're likely going to go higher as long as we can go ahead and break the neckline. Now, as we come over and look at the futures markets real quick, what do we got going on the 4-hour chart? This white line is what we drew out in last night's video. This represents this wick low that we had right here. Yesterday, we went below it. Now we're back above that price point, and we're actually able to make it all the way back up, filling the gap from Sunday night. Now, if you notice, we do have a weekly point of control that has not been tested, 54.29.5, which is right near that gap to be filled from last week as well. So let's keep an eye on that area along with this minus development area from last week's profile, somewhere around 54.02. As we dive down and start looking at the daily profiles on the 30-minute chart, notice what we have. We're closing near the upper end of the range. Now, value area high is going to be about 53.23. The point of control will be 52.92.5, with value area low being 52.64.00. Now tonight, ideally, you'd like to see the market break value area high and continue to go higher. However, if we do start to break value area high and we start coming back down, then I'd want to target the point of control. I'd want to target value area low. Then I'd want to target kind of the lower third of the range, kind of right up in this area here. We can see as the market pushed up, we set a swing point right there. Market pulled back, went up, and look where we came back down to retest. We came right back over towards that area. And I would expect the market to come back down there once again if indeed we do start breaking value area low. Now, let's say that tomorrow we wake up in the morning, the market is down below value area low. We start coming back above it. I then want to target the point of control. I then want to target value area high, and then anything above value area high, I want to turn my attentions back over to the 4-hour chart. I want to focus on the minus development area. I want to focus on the point of control and that gap to be filled, and then see if we can go ahead and run up. Let's not forget, we still have a gap left behind, basically from April 2nd, along with an untested point of control at 56.74. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I don't think the targets right here that I'm talking about around the point of control way up here is likely going to be tested tomorrow. We'd have to see some type of amazing news announcement in order for something like that to take place. Now, if we look at the economic calendar out here, what do we have on deck today? Today, we have the Richmond Manufacturing Index. Yikes, came in at -13 with a forecasted point of -6. previously -4. Now, tomorrow, do we have any economic news? We have a lot of FOMC members speaking. We also at 9:45 have flash manufacturing, flash services PMI coming out, along with new home sales coming out at 10 a.m. So as we come over and look at the QQQs real quick on the daily chart, notice we have an anchor VWAP right here from the low, and the upper anchor VWAP is from all-time highs. Notice today we're able to get back above that lower anchored VWAP, which is constructive. We look right here at the MACD indicator, just basically flatlined out there, not a whole lot to see. Then on the 4-hour chart, MACD indicator also flatlined as well. Now, the thing that has me a little bit concerned, I'm not really a fan of, is the fact that we're leaving a gap behind from today. It doesn't mean we can't leave it behind for weeks or even months, but I would have preferred maybe dip down intraday, fill the gap, and then go ahead and run back up. On the 30-minute chart, we had that push up. We can see that large gaping gap. We were able to fill the gap from yesterday, and now the MACD indicator still has a bullish cross. We're still trending up, but is this going to turn into like a little bull flag-ish pattern? Right here being the flagpole, and this kind of being the flag-ish looking pattern, which is basically a heads up. We're likely looking for higher prices. Now, one of the patterns we want to pay attention to for tomorrow, if you trade the QQQs, see if we can break above the high from today and then start coming back down. If we do, look to target value area high, then the point of control, value area low, and then down here towards gap support. And if we lose gap support, watch out for that gap to be filled today, all the way down here about 433.14. As we come over and look at the NASDAQ futures real quick on the 4-hour chart, notice we had a pretty good move up out here today. We closed the gap from Sunday night, and we actually got back into the volume profile range from last week. So are we going to be able to rotate all the way through the volume profile and get up towards 18,962.75? Keep in mind, there's a zone I have my eye on, kind of a minus development area within the profile. That's going to come in anywhere from about 18,745 up here to about 18,800. I do think it's highly probable we're going to work our way up towards that level. The only question I'm asking myself is, do we start to get a pullback first and then set up some type of A to B equals C to D pattern, which would then come up and be able to take out that pattern? And on the first attempt, will we go all the way through it and maybe fill the gap out here left behind from last week? As we come over and start looking at the daily profiles, notice we have a large minus development area. This is the area that we were talking about today on the live stream. We did not quite make it back into that zone. I was actually short the NASDAQ. Good thing I did close it out. In hindsight, I didn't make a whole lot on that trade. So I am happy that I did close it out because ultimately we did go back up. Now, as we go ahead and we look at this, if we pull a fib from the swing low up here to the swing high, notice we came right down to the 61.8 level. That is a key level that quite often the market will turn from. So if this is going to turn into an A to B equals C to D pattern, let's go ahead and map this out. That gives us a price projection up here right around 18,682. Now, in order for that pattern to be validated, we must get above the high from today, but that doesn't mean that we can't get some type of early entry and just push runners up towards that target before that pattern is actually validated. That's one of the benefits about being able to spot patterns ahead of time, is not necessarily trying to get in because of the pattern, but being able to use those pattern targets as potential runner targets out in the future. Now, if you look at value area high, that'll be 18,455. The point of control is going to come in about 18,295, with value area low being 18,204. Now, if you'd like to see an updated video on the pros and cons of Take Profit Trader, and there is a new pro, there is a new con, then make sure to watch this next video right here.